Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the World Series is on the air. This is Ted Husing at Sportsman's Park, St. Louis, where the Detroit Tigers and St. Louis Cardinals are battling for the World Championship. Before we touch into the game and bring you Pat Flanagan, let me give you some interesting sidelights on the records that are being set up or being approached. As most everyone knows, Frankie Frisch is adding to his already heavy World Series mark. Frankie sets a new number or a new mark by playing his 47th World Series game today, which will be number 6 more than Babe Ruth has appeared in. He has already been at bat 179 times in his total series, this being his 8th, and he will add more times at bat today. He has added 3 hits to his World Series record of 52, now making it 55. And he also now has a World Series mark of 43 singles. A number of records are being approached as time goes by. Medwick is approaching the base hit mark in one series and can also better the batting percentage mark. He has already gone into a 15-way tie with 4 hits in one game. No one has ever hit 5. Pepper Martin is well on his way to the record of most bases in one series, and some of the lads, through the value of that 12-inning game, are approaching the most times at bat record. Goslin has already gone into a tie for having been at bat 6 times in one game. Both clubs just missed by 1 time at bat the total record of 84, which was set by the Yankees Cubs in the 4th game of 1932. That was in the second game. In 1910, the Cubs had 14 men left on bases, and the Tigers have on 2 successive days had 13 men left on bases, which sets the record for such incidences on the diamond. St. Louis yesterday had only 3 assists in the game, and that ties the record held by 2 teams, including the title team of 1930. Well, we're all expectancy, and believe you me, it's worth it. The Tigers are attired in gray and blue, the Cards in white, and Cardinal stripes. The regular run of news hounds and photographers are on hand, and the crowd entirely circles the playing field. The dugouts are encircled with special field box seats, and the benches, therefore, are unable to rag the opposing batteries. In the case of Tex Carlson pitching for the Cards today, this is a distinct handicap, for Tex blows up under excessive ragging. Well, here's Pat Flanagan, ladies and gentlemen, with the pre-game dope. Okay, Pat.
Okay, Ted, how about you, ladies and gentlemen? The World Series of 1934, like any other short series, is developing along the usual lines. Or as they say in baseball, the team that gets the break is the one that gets the big cut when the checks are mailed. Now, you have heard that there might be a change in the batting order today. Don't be surprised at all, because of the failure of Greenberg to hit with men on the bases. It may force Cochran to drop him down into the list and give the cleanup spot to Goslin, who has hit with men on bases, and is one of those few players in big league ball whose pitch is made, maybe you will see Greenberg drop out. Possibilities so far as we know, but the hitter's former position, particularly terrific 7th inning, means that he is really on his way back to hit as he did during the regular season. Now, the composite box score for the first 3 games shows Medwick, who was a .319 hitter for the season, hitting at a .429 pace for the series, while Greenberg, a .340 season hitter, has been credited with 3 hits and 12 times at bat for a .250 series average. And for the peace of mind of a great ball player, everyone is hoping that Greenberg comes out of it. Goslin, who may take Greenberg's hitting spot, batted .302 during the year, but he has a series average to date of .358. The expected move may change the entire complexion of this series. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that's all we have to say about today's game, the possibilities and things of that sort. So just as soon as Frank Flock, who is going to be your announcer on the play-by-play report, gets himself all set here with 4 or 5 enormous cushions, so that he'll be in a proper position to look over the heads of the various people who are walking around here in front of him, we shall turn the microphone over to him. Are you all ready, Fran? Just 1 second, says Fran. Right now we find the band which has been playing down along the right field line is circling up, coming around to pass home plate, and will eventually go down to their seat, which is just about 90 or 95 feet beyond third base. Making the regular turn here at the home plate now, and starting down along third base line to get to those positions where they will sit and play at various times during the afternoon. Fran, away you go. Take it.
Thank you very much, Fran. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just a few moments now before the game starts. The departed lineup. They're calling it off right at the present time. We'll have to check here. We can't hardly hear the boy down there due to the racket. Are you checking? You can check the lineup there for me, so I'll have the correct note there in just a moment. For the Cardinals, Pepper Martin will again be at third base. Rock, right field. Frisch, second base. Medwick, left field. Collins, first base. Delancey, catch. Orsatti, center field. DeRocher, short. And Tex Carlton, a right-hander on the firing line. We didn't catch the Detroit lineup there due to the noise. We'll get that to you in just a few moments. But the pitcher who will open up for him this afternoon will be none other than Eldon Walker, a right-hander. We don't know whether the Detroit lineup is the same as they've been using in the series. There's been quite a bit of rumor that they were going to switch their batting order in order to try and get a little more results in the hitting. Moving, we understand that Goose Goslin was going to move up in the cleanup position because he had been smacking that ball and to give him a more chance up there with men on base. The umpires are out at the plate at the present time in a conference there with manager Chris St. Louis and DeRocher, field captain. Mickey Cotton has been out there also. He's walking back over to the Detroit dugout. And there's the national anthem. For Detroit will show White, center field. Cotton catch. Gehringer, second base. Goslin, left field. Rogell, short. Greenberg, first base. Owen, third. Fox, right. And Walker, pitch. Cardinals are out on the field now. The series at the present time standing 2 victories for the Cardinals and 1 for Detroit. And there's a prospect this afternoon that if the St. Louis team wins, that tomorrow we'll probably see a great pitchers battle between Schoolboy Rowe and Dizzy D, what most of the fans have been looking for. Of course, if Detroit wins this afternoon, that's liable to change the picture of the situation quite a bit. And Rowe might accidentally be held over until Monday back in Detroit. However, we've got to play this game to find out just exactly what is going to happen first. Delancey just receives a pitch from Carlton, and he makes his throw down to first at second base, and we're all set to go. JoJo White is the first man up for the Tigers. Center fielder, a left-handed hitter. Tex Carlton taking his position on the mound. He gets to the Rosenbach, getting a signal from Delancey. And the 4th game of the series is underway. Carlton starts his wind-up. Here's the first pitch to JoJo, and he swung, strike 1. 1 strike is the count on JoJo White. First man up for the Tigers, a left-handed hitter. White so far in the series hitting exactly 182, getting 2 hits from yesterday's game. His season average is .315. Carlton's back on the mound again, getting a signal from Delancey for the next one. 1 strike is the count. He's winding up. Here's the next one, and it's strike 2, Carl. 2 strikes on JoJo White. 2 strikes is the count on JoJo White. First man up for Detroit. Nope. He's changing it 1-1. And that started an argument. Everybody in the park thought it was 2-2, and now they're coming in to argue with umpire Red Briggs, DeRocher, and Martin, all of them coming in. That started a big argument on that. Everyone in the park thought it was 2 strikes.
2-1 is the count. The discussion is still going on. Perkins coming in from the first baseline. Coach at first for the Tigers. Baker coaching at third. Players are going back now to their respective positions. Count is 1-1. Waiting on Frisch to get back down to second base. White is the man that's batting. Left-handed hitter. First man up for the Tigers in the first half of the first inning. His fourth game of the World Series. Paladin's back on the rubber. Gets the signal from Delancey. Starting his wind-up for the pitch. Here it is. And it's a fly ball. Going out to short center. Orsatti coming in fast. He's under it. And he makes the catch for the initial out. White is out on a fly to Orsatti in center. One away, and that brings up Mickey Cochran, the Detroit manager and catcher, left-handed hitter. Cochran batting, one man down, nobody on, first half of the first. Gehringer on deck. Paladin Dodgers wind up. Here's the first one. Strike one called on Cochran. One strike is the count. First half of the first inning with one away. Ball tossed back to Paladin. Goes to the Rosenbach. Steps back in on the mound. Getting a signal. Winding up to the pitch. Here it is. Low ball one. He floated that one up there, but just a little bit low. The count is 1-1 on Mickey Cochran. 1 ball and 1 strike. One away. Back on the mound again. Gets the toe hole on the rubber. Starts his wind up to the pitch. Here it is. Strike 2, a curveball cuts the inside corner. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count on Cochran. The sidearm pitcher. Mostly curveball pitcher. Comes in with beautiful curve. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count on Mickey Cochran. Getting a signal from Delancey for the next one. Winding up. Here's the pitch. Wide. Ball 2. The count is even up 2-2. 2 balls and 2 strikes on Mickey Cochran with 1 man down, nobody on. And it's the first half of the first inning. Paladin's on the mound. Starts his wind up for the next one. Here's the pitch. Looks like it tipped off his bat. Counts him. Nope, it didn't. He's inside. Making the count reach 3-2. 3-2. It was out for a moment that it tipped Cochran's bat. The pitch was inside. 3-2 is the count. 1 away. And this is the first half of the first inning. 2 balls tossed out to Paladin. Goes to the Rosenbach. He's stepping in on the mound. Getting his signal from Delancey. Starts his wind up for the pitch. Here it is. And it's a ground ball going down to Frankie Frisch. And he's out at first. Frisch to Collins for the second out. 2 down. And Charlie Gehringer, the Tiger second baseman, is the next man up, the left-handed hitter. Two down. Alden's on the mound, starts his wind up. Here's the next first one, and it's strike 1 called on Gehringer. Gehringer hitting .385 so far in the series. Season average .356. 1 strike is the count. Paladin starts his wind up. Here's the next pitch, and it's a drive down the right field line, but it's foul. Ball was fouled down the right field line, and the count is 2 strikes. Two strikes. Two strikes. 2 down. Nobody on. Back on the mound. Got the signal again. Here's the next one. Wide. Ball 1. 2 strikes and 1 ball. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count on Charlie Gehringer, who is batting. This is the first half of the first inning with 2 down, nobody on the track. Ball's passed back to Paladin. He's on the mound again. Getting his signal. Here's the pitch, and it's a hit out to left center.
And Gehringer is down on first base. Gehringer is on first base with a single out to left center. A line drive out to left center. And that brings up Goose Goslin, the Tiger left fielder. Goslin has been moved up to cleanup position in the Tiger lineup, as he's been really cracking that apple during the series. He has an average in the series here of 357. He hit 3-2 during the season. Carlton on the mound, getting set for the first pitch to Goslin. There goes a throw over to first base to Collins, but Gehringer is back on the bag. Getting set, another quick throw to first base. Gehringer again is back to the bag safely. Goose Goslin batting, 2 down. Rogell on deck. Ball set, here's the pitch. Strike one called. One strike is the count on Goslin. One strike on Goslin. One strike. Gehringer still on first base. Carlin's on the mound again. Got the signal for the next pitch. Here it is. And it's strike 2. Another one called. 2 strikes on Goslin. 2 strikes on Goslin. Both of them called strikes. 2 down. And Charlie Gehringer on first base. Gehringer got a single out to left center. Carlin steps back on the mound again. Got his signal from Delancey. 2 strikes as the count is all set. Here's the pitch. Wide, it was a pitch out, expecting Gehringer to go down on that one, but he didn't go. 2 strikes and 1 ball. Two strikes and 1 ball is the count. Back on the mound, getting set for the next pitch. There's a quick throw to first, but Gehringer is back to the bag. Collins tosses it back into Carlton. First half of the first inning with 2 down. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count on Goose Goslin, who is up there at the plate. Rogell on deck. Carlton gets his signal. He's on the mound, set for the pitch. Here it comes. And it's a drive going out to right field. And Rothrock takes care of it for the third out, retiring the side. The result, the first half of the first inning show no runs, 1 hit, and no error. And the scores we go into the last half of the first inning reach 0 for Detroit, with St. Louis getting their first chance. And now we'll take time out for station identification. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
And this is the WBBM Amphitheater, Wrigley Building, Chicago.
We're back at Sportsman's Park, going into the last half of the first inning. And Pepper Martin, the Cardinal third baseman, will be the first man up, a right-handed hitter. He'll be followed by Rothrock and then Frankie Prince. Rothrock's average in the series, Martin's average in the series so far is 385 for the 3 games that have been played. His batting average during the season was 287. That's right-handed. Rothrock will be the second man, Prince the third. Pepper Martin standing to the left of the plate. Steps up into the batter's box. Eldon Ocker on the firing line for Detroit this afternoon. The right-hander. Ocker won 15 and lost 7 during the season. The first pitch is inside and high, ball 1. He's a big, tall right-hander, standing 6 feet 2. Weighs 197 pounds. 1 ball is the count. He's on the mound, gets his signal again, winding up. Here's the next one. Ball 2 inside and high. 2 balls and no strikes on Martin. 2 balls and no strikes is the count on Pepper Martin, a right-handed hitter. Ocker starts his wind-up. Here's the next pitch. Strike 1 called. That one cuts the inside corner. 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 balls and 1 strike is the count on Martin. Rothrock on deck. This is the last half of the first inning.
Hawker starts his windup. Here's the pitch. Ball 3, inside and low. 1. 3 balls and 1 strike is the count. Starts the old windup for the next one. And it's high. Ball 4. And Martin walks. Martin is on first base, and that brings up Rothrock, the Cardinal right fielder, switch hitter, batting left-handed against Hawker. Martin on first base, nobody down. Frisch on deck. This is the last half of the first inning. Hawker's on the mound, getting set for the first pitch to Rothrock. Martin on first base, does a throw to first. Martin goes back into the bag head first, but he's back in there, plenty to spare. Hawker's on the mound again, gets his signal from Cochran. He's all set for the delivery. Here it comes. And a ground ball right back to Hawker. Hawker gets the ball, throws down to Rogell. Rogell to Greenberg for a double play. Rothrock hit into a double play. Hawker to Rogell to Greenberg. 2 down. And that brings up manager Frankie Frisch. Frankie Frisch is up. Cardinal manager, second baseman, switch hitter, batting left-handed against Hawker. 2 down, nobody on. Joe Medwick on deck. Hawker starts his windup. Here's the first pitch, and it's a drive going out to left field. Gosselin is after it, and he makes the catch for the 3rd out. A line drive out to Goose Gosselin to left for the 3rd out, retiring the side. The results in the last half of the first inning show no runs, no hits, and no errors. Cardinals getting 1 man on, the first man up getting 3 transportation. The score as we go into the first half of the second inning reads 0-0.
These World Series broadcasts are brought to you through the courtesy of the makers of the Ford B8.
The first half of the second inning coming up. Rogell, the Tiger shortstop, will be the first man up. The only switch hitter in the Tiger lineup. He's batting left-handed against Tex Carlton. He'll be followed by Greenberg and then Marvin Owen. And the score as we go into the first half of the second reads 0-0. Delancey just making his throw down to Frisch at second base. And we're all set to go. Rogell is the first hitter. Rogell batting. Tex Carlton takes his position on the mound, getting his signal. Winding up for the pitch. Here's the first one. Inside and low. Ball 1 on Rogell. 1 ball is the count. This is the first man up for the Tigers in the first half of the second inning. The score reads 0-0 so far. He's all set. Here's the next pitch. Strike. Called. 1 ball and 1 strike on Rogell. 1-1. Tex Carlton's back on the mound. Gets his signal for the next one. 1-1 is the count on Rogell. Carlton starting his windup. Here's the pitch, and it's wide. Ball 2. 2 balls and 1 strike. Two balls and 1 strike is the count. Carlton's back on the mound. Starts the old windup again. Here's the next one. Strike. Call. 2-2. 2-2 is the count on Rogell. First man for the Tigers in the first half of the second inning. 2-2. On the mound again, gets his signal. Winding up for the pitch. Here it comes. And it's strike 3 call. Rogell called out on strike for the initial out. Rogell called out on strike, 1 away, and that brings up Hank Greenberg, the Tiger first baseman, a right-handed hitter. Greenberg batting, a right-handed hitter. 1 down, nobody on. Marvin Owen is the next man for the Tigers, following Greenberg. Carlton takes his position on the mound to get his signal. Winding up, here's the pitch, and it's a drive down to DeRozier. He knocked the ball down, but he couldn't recover in time. And Greenberg is on first base with a single. He really hit that one hard through there. DeRozier got over to the ball, knocked it down. It was a line drive, but he couldn't hold it. And Greenberg is on first base with a single. That brings up Owen, the Tigers' third baseman, a right-handed hitter. Carlton's on the mound, getting set for the first pitch to Owen. Strike one called. One strike is the count on Marvin Owen. The Tigers' third baseman was batting. Owen hit .316 in the season, but he hasn't had any hits so far in the series. Right-handed hitter, he'll be followed by Fox. Carlton's on the mound again, set for the next one. Greenberg on first. Here's the pitch, and it's a fly ball going down toward second base, and Frankie Frisch takes care of it for the second out. Owen pops out to Frisch at second. 2 down, and that brings up Steve Fox, the Tiger right fielder, a right-handed hitter. Fox hit .281 during the season, and so far in the series, he's batting .231. It's right-handed, 2 away. Greenberg on first base. First half of the second inning, and the score reads 0-0 so far. Carlton's on the mound, got the signal from Delancey. All set for the pitch. Here it is. Ball outside and low. 1 ball is the count on Fox. 1 ball is the count. He's back on the mound again. Getting a signal for the next pitch. Greenberg still on first base. 2 down. 1 ball is the count. Here's the next one. And it's a fly ball going out back of second base. DeRozier is going back after it, and he takes care of it back of second base for the third out, retiring the side. The result, the first half of the second inning show no runs, 1 hit, and no errors. And the score remains 0-0 going into the last half of the second. In the first half of the second here, Rogell, the first man up for the Tigers, struck out. Greenberg, the first baseman, was the next man up, and sent a hard line drive out through short that DeRozier knocked down, but didn't have any chance to get Greenberg at first, and it went for a hit. Owen, the next man up, popped out to Frisch at second, after which Fox sent a little fly out to short center, which DeRozier went back and took care of for the third out. The last half of the second inning coming up. Joe Medwick, the Cardinal left fielder, is the first man up, a right-handed hitter. Medwick hit .319 during the season, and he's hitting .429 so far in the series. That's right-handed. He'll be followed by Rip Collins and then Delancey. Medwick, first man. There goes Cochran's throw down to second base. They're all set to go. Medwick batting. Hawker's on the mound. Gets the signal from Cochran. He's winding up. Here's the pitch. And it's a hit out to left center. And Medwick is on first base. Medwick gets a single out to left center. That's the first hit for the Cardinals. Medwick on first base. That brings up Rip Collins, Cardinal first baseman, a switch hitter, batting left-handed against Hawker. Collins during the season hit .333, and he's hitting .308 so far in the series. Batting left-handed against Hawker. Hawker's on the mound. He gets his signal from Cochran. Medwick on first base. Here's the pitch. That's foul back against the screen. Strike 1. Now the new ball tossed out there to Eldon Austin. Steps over to the left of the mound. Now he's back on the rubber. Getting in position. Gets his signal from Cochran. Medwick on first base. He's all set. Here's the pitch. And it's a drive going out to right field. It's up against the screen. Out in right field. Here comes Medwick. Stopping at third. And Collins pulls up at second with a double. Collins doubles off of the right field screen, sending Medwick to third. And that brings up Delancey, the Cardinal catcher. Conference going on now between Hawker and Cochran. Medwick on third, Collins on second. Nobody out, and Delancey, the Cardinal catcher, is up, a left-handed hitter. Hit .316 during the season, and is hitting .214 so far in the series. That started the pitcher to warming up down in the bullpen.
Alvin Crowder warming up for the Tigers down in the bullpen, right-hander. Walker starts his windup. Here's the first pitch to Delancey. A little bit high, ball one. One ball is the count on Delancey. Medwick on third base, Collins on second. Walker starts his windup for the next one. Here it is. Ball wide. 2 balls and no strikes. 2 balls and no strikes to the count on Delancey. Walker's back on the mound again. Getting a signal from Cochran. Starts the old wind-up for the next one. Here it comes, and it's wide. Ball 3. 3-0. 3 balls and no strikes on Delancey. Runners on second and third. Orsatti will be the next hitter. Here's the next pitch. Ball 4, inside and high, and Delancey walks, filling the bases. Nobody out, and the bases are loaded. Ernie Orsatti up, bases loaded, nobody down. This is the last half of the second inning. Walker gets his signal from Cochran, starts his wind-up for the pitch. Here it comes. Strike one call. That one broke in there very nicely. 1 strike is the count on Orsatti. Medwick on third, Collins on second, Delancey on first, nobody out. Orsatti batting in the count is 1 strike. Here's the next one, and it's a drive going down the left field line. Gosselin is going over after it, and he makes the catch right on the line. Here comes Medwick coming in after the catch. Here's the throw, but he's in with a run. Orsatti is out on a fly to Gosselin down the left field line. Medwick scoring after the catch. And that puts the Cardinals in the lead by a score of 1-0 here in the last half of the second inning. And DeRozier, the Cardinal shortstop, is the next hitter. That's right half. DeRozier hit .256 during the season. Has not a hit so far in the series. He'll be followed by the St. Louis pitcher, Tex Trout. 1 out. Collins on second base, Delancey on first. DeRozier was out of the batter's box for the moment. He steps in. Walker's on the rubber, getting a signal from Cochran. All set. Here's the pitch. And it's a fly ball. Going out to right field. Fox is after it. He's under it. And he makes the catch for the out. Both runners remaining on their respective bases. 2 down, and that brings up Tex Carlton, the Cardinal pitcher. Tex Carlton coming up to the plate for the Cardinals. Tex Carlton is the hitter for the Cardinals. Runners on first and second. Hollinsing on second base. Delancey on first. Hawker's back on the mound. Hawker's getting set. Here's the pitch. And it's a foul into the stands. The upper tier down the left field line for strike 1 on Tex Carlton. And a new ball is tossed in. Steps back into the batter's box for the moment. Hawker's on the mound. Getting a signal from Cochran. All set for the pitch. Here it is. And it's a little bit high, making the count even up 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1-1 is the count on Carlton. Hawker's back on the rubber again. Gets his signal for the next pitch. Here it comes. And it's a ground ball down to Rogell. Rogell scoops it up, tosses to Gehringer at second base, forcing Delancey for the 3rd out, retiring the side. The results there, the last half of the second inning show 1 run, 2 hits, and no errors. And the score going into the first half of the 3rd inning reads 1-0 in favor of the St. Louis Cardinals.
The Ford Motor Company is sending you the broadcast of the World Series game.
Going into the first half of the 3rd inning, and Eldon Walker, the Detroit pitcher, will be the first man up. Now in the last half of the second, Medwick the first man up, single out to left center, after which Collins doubles off of the right field pavilion screen. Delancey, the next man up, walked. And then Orsatti was out on a fly to Gosselin down the left field line. Medwick scoring after the catch. DeRozier then flied out to Fox and right, and Carlson forced Delancey up second. Rogell to Gehringer. There goes the throw down to second base. Delancey is just coming out to the plate. Whitehead was out there taking the preliminary pitches of Tex Powden. And Hawker will be the first man up for the Tigers as we go into the first half of the third inning. Hawker bats right-handed. Tex Powden goes to the rosin bag. Back on the mound now, getting a signal from Delancey. Powden starts his wind-up. Here's the pitch. Inside, ball one. One ball is the count on Hawker. Joe White is the next man up for the Tigers. Powden starts his wind-up. Here's the pitch, and it's a fly ball going out to right center. Orsatti going back. And he leaps up in the air and makes the catch and then runs into the wall. And he might have been hurt on that one. Both Medwick and Rob Rock are going over. He looks like he's all right. He's coming back in there. He leaped up just about 2 feet from the wall to make the catch and went right on into the wall. One away, and Joe White, the Tiger center fielder, is up, a left-handed hitter. Hawker had a little power back to that one. It looked for a moment like it might get on over right against the staff. One down, nobody on. First half of the third, St. Louis leading 1-0. White batting, the left-handed hitter. This is his second appearance. He was out on a fly out to Orsatti in the first inning. Ireland's on the mound, got this signal from Delancey, winding up. And here's the initial pitch to White, and it's wide, ball one. One ball is the count on White, left-handed hitter. One man down. Powell's on the mound again. Here it comes. Strike call. That one was right through the center. Count is even up, 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1 ball and 1 strike on White. Starts the old wind-up. Here's the next pitch. Ball 2. It was high. 2 balls and 1 strike on White. With one man down, nobody on. Harlan goes back to the rosin bag. Coming back in on the mound. Starts the old wind-up for the next pitch. 2 balls and 1 strike is the count. Here it is. And a foul. Back against the screen. The count is even up 2-2. 2 balls and 2 strikes. One away. First man up. Hawker, the Tiger pitcher, going out on a fly out to deep right center, which was taken care of by Orsatti. 2-2 is the count on White. Harlan gets his signal. He's on the mound. Starts his wind-up. Strike 3. He went down swinging. White struck out on a curveball for the second out. 2 down. That brings up Mickey Cochran, the Tiger catcher. Left-handed hitter. This is Cochran's second appearance at the plate in the first inning. He grounded out Frisch to Collins. 2 down, nobody on. Gehringer on deck and Goslin in the hole. Collins starts his wind-up, and here's the first pitch to Cochran. And it's a hit down the first base line, just inside of the line, going clear down to the right field wall. And Cochran is racing down for second base. He pulls up at second with a double. Cochran doubles down the first base line. And that brings up Charlie Gehringer. Charlie Gehringer is up. Tiger second baseman, left-handed hitter. This is Gehringer's second appearance at the plate. He got a single out to left center in the first inning. Score is 1-0 in favor of St. Louis at the present time. There's 2 down. Cochran on second base. Gehringer batting. That makes the hit 3-2 in favor of the Tigers. They've had 1 hit in each inning so far. Carlton's on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey for the initial pitch to Gehringer. Cochran down on second base, 2 down. And he's all set. Here it is. Inside and low, ball 1. 1 ball is the count on Charlie Gehringer. Goslin on deck. First half of the third. Carlton's on the mound. All set for the next one. Here it comes. Wide and low, ball 2. 2 balls and no strikes on Gehringer. balls and no strikes is the count. Takes his position on the mound again, getting a signal for the next one. Cochran taking a nice lead off of second base. 2 down. All set. Here's the pitch. Strike, ball, third ball, right on the inside corner of the plate. 2 balls and 1 strike. Ball is tossed back to Carlton. He's back on the mound again. 2 balls and 1 strike with 2 down. Cochran taking a big lead again. Rogers playing back and forth with him. Here's the next pitch, and it's low. Ball 3, making the count reach 3-1 on Charlie Gehringer. 3 balls and 1 strike. 3-1 is the count. We're in the first half of the third inning with 2 men down. Mickey Cochran down on second base. Getting a double down the first base line. Ball went clear out to right field fence. Carlton's on the mound again, set for the next pitch. Ball 4, outside and low, and Gehringer walks. Gehringer's been on both times so far. That's the first base on ball to be issued by Carlton. Walker issued one to Delancey there in the second inning. And now a little conference out on the mound between Delancey, DeRocher, Frisch, and Carlton. And Goose Goslin is the hitter. Left fielder. This is Goslin's second appearance at the plate. In the first inning, he went out on a fly out to Rock in right field. Goslin's been hitting .357 up to today's game in the series. His season average was .302. The left-handed hitter. Cochran on second. Gehringer on first. 2 down. Goslin batting. Here's the pitch. Ball 1, wide. 1 ball is the count. On Goslin. Carlton's back on the mound again. Gets his signal from Delancey for the next one. 1 ball is the count. Here's the pitch. And it's ball 2. High. 2 balls and no strikes. Two balls and no strikes is the count. Like Dazzy Vance starting to warm up for the Cardinals down in the bullpen. Right-hander. 2 balls and no strikes is the count on Goslin. Here's the next one. Ball 3, wide. 3-0. 3 balls and no strikes on Goslin. Carlton goes back to the rosin bag. 3 balls and no strikes. On the mound, getting set for the pitch. Cochran on second base. Gehringer on first base. Here it comes. Strike. Balls. 3 balls and 1 strike on Goose Goslin. Three balls and 1 strike. Back on the mound, gets his signal. Here's the next one. Ball 4, low, and Goslin walks, filling the bases. That puts Cochran on third, Gehringer on second, Goslin on first. And now 2 men walking, and Rogell is scheduled to be the next hitter. And now a conference out at the mound again. There's 2 down, bases loaded. All of the infield in there on the conference with the exception of Rip Collins. Players are going back to their respective positions. Carlton's going to stay in. Vance is warming up down in the bullpen. Cochran the first, second man up, got a double. Rather the third man up after 2 were out, and then Gehringer and Goslin walk. The bases are loaded. 2 down, Rogell batting. Rogell's second appearance. He struck out in the second inning. Carlton is winding up for the pitch. Here it is. And it's strike 1. He swung at it. 1 strike is the count on Rogell. This is the first half of the third inning, and the score at the present time is 1-0 in favor of the St. Louis Cardinals. Carlton's on the mound. He starts his wind up for the next one. And it's a hit out to center field, scoring Cochran and Gehringer. Here comes the throw to third base, and Goslin pulls up safely at third. Rogell single to center, scoring Gehringer. and Cochrane. 2 runs in. That puts the Tigers to lead by a score of 2-1. They're all out there in the conference now at the mound. Greenberg is scheduled to be the next hitter. Runners on first and third. They're still in the conference out there at the mound. Whether Carlton's going to stay in or not. The umpire's going out now. Looks like Dazzy Vance is going to come in. Vance is still down the bullpen warming up. They're calling Vance. Dazzy Vance, a right-hander, going to come in to do the twirling. Dazzy Vance making his first appearance in a World Series game. All the time he's spent in the National League, one of the outstanding twirlers for years, getting into his first World Series. As Dazzy said, he was just swept in with the confusion. Coming in to release Carlton on the mound, and the first man to face him will be Greenberg, the Tiger first baseman. Goslin on third base, Rogell on first base, 2 down, and Greenberg will be the first man to face Vance. We're all set to go. Greenberg is stepping into the batter's box. Goose Goslin is on third base. Rogell on first base. 2 down. And Greenberg is up. Carlton's 2 walks there got him into trouble there in that inning. He had the first 2 men out, then Cochrane double, and then he walked Gehringer on Goslin, after which Rogell singled to center. Greenberg batting. His second appearance. He got a hit in the second inning. Here's the first pitch. Strike 1 called on Greenberg. 1 strike is the count on Hank Greenberg. Caller toss back to Vance. He's on the mound again. Comes off of it to move the dirt out a little. Going to be satisfactory. Now he's back on the rubber. Gets his signal from Delancey. Runners on first and third. Here's the pitch. And it's a ground ball. Down to Rocher. Knocks it down, but not in time to get anyone. It's a hit for Greenberg. Scoring Goslin. Rogell reaching second. 3 runs in for the Tigers. Rogell is on second. Greenberg on first. And that brings up Owen, the Tiger third baseman. Owen is a right-handed hitter. Runners on first and second. 2 down. That was a hard smash down back to second base. DeRocher went over and knocked the ball down, but he didn't have any chance to get anyone. Vance is on the mound, gets his signal, all set. Here's the first one to Owen, and it's a ground ball going down toward short. Martin goes over and gets it, and he's safe at third base when Collins' foot was up in the air when he was jumping after Martin's throw. The throw was a little bit high. He was up in the air just a fraction as Owen hit the bag, and it goes as an infield hit, I think, for Marvin Owen. I think he'll get credit for a hit on that ball. And those players are arguing about the decision. That makes the bases loaded. It goes as a hit for Owen, his first in the series. Owen has hit .316 during the season. This is his first hit in the series. Well, that puts Rogell on third, Greenberg on second, Owen on first, 2 down, and Pete Fox, the Tiger right fielder, is up, a right-handed hitter. 3 runs are in, bases loaded, and 2 away. And the score is now 3-1, favor the Detroit Tigers. Bases loaded. Vance is on the mound, getting his signal from Delancey. Getting his signal from Delancey. Starts his windup for the pitch. Oh, it was high. 1 ball is the count on Fox. Jeff Haynes going down to the bullpen. ball is the count. Bases loaded. Rogell on third. Greenberg on first. Greenberg on second. Owen on first. And the next pitch is inside and high. Ball 2. Bill Walker and Gus Haynes warming up down in the bullpen for the Cardinals. Walker a left-hander. Haynes a right-hander. The count is 2 balls and no strikes on Fox, who is batting. Van starts his line up for the next one. And he swung at it for strike 1. 2 balls and 1 strike is the count on Fox. Two balls and 1 strike. 2 balls and 1 strike. Bases loaded. And 2 down. This is the first half of the third inning. Detroit Tigers leading by a score of 3-1. Fox stepped back out of the batter's box for the moment. He's back in. Vance is winding up. Here's the pitch, and it's inside and low. Ball 3. The count is 3 balls and 1 strike. 3 balls and 1 strike. All of this has happened after 2 men were out. The first 2 men up went out. Hawker on a fly ball out to Orsatti in right center. Then White struck out, and then Mickey Cochran started the trouble with a double down the first base line. Here's the next pitch. Strike 2 call. Count is 3-2, and now something very near bound to happen this time unless he just fouls it off and delays. The bases are loaded. There's 2 down, and the count on the batter is 3-2. Everyone will start with a pitch. Van starts his windup. The runners are all starting. Here it is. And he went down swinging. Fox struck out for the third out, repairing the side. The result of the first half of the third inning there show 3 runs, 4 hits, and no errors. On the score now as we go into the last half of the third, 3-1 in favor of the Detroit Tigers. They started off that inning with Hawker, the first man up, going out on a fly ball out to Orsatti in right center. White then struck out. Cochran troubled. Gehringer walked. Goslin walked, and then Rogell singled to center. Then Tex Sarden was replaced by Vance. Greenberg got a single. Owen a single to load the bases. Infield single, but they didn't score on those 2 off of Vance. After getting the bases loaded and having the count 3-2 on Fox, the right fielder, he struck him out for the third out to retire the side. The last half of the third, Pepper Martin will be the first man up for the Cardinals. Hawker still warming up with Cochran. Cochran tosses the ball down to Gehringer at second base. We're all set to go in the last half of the third. Detroit leading by a score of 3-1. Martin batting, a right-handed hitter. Hawker's on the mound. He gets his signal, starting his wind-up. Here's the pitch. And it's a ground ball down the third base line. Owen takes it on a big hop, and he's out at first. Owen to Greenberg for the initial out. 1 away. That was Martin's second appearance. He walked in the first inning. Rothrock is the next man. Cardinals only have 2 hits off of Hawker so far. Winding up, here's the first one. Strike 1 called on Rothrock. Dazzy Vance is back down in the bullpen, warming up. Evidently, he wasn't warmed up enough when he went in. Here's the next pitch. Wide and low. Ball 1, making the count read 1-1 on Rothrock. 1 down, nobody on. And it's the last half of the third. Detroit leading by a score of 3-1. Rich is on deck. Hawker starts his wind up. Here's the next one. A ground ball going down to Gehringer. Gehringer gets it on the hop, and he's out at first. Gehringer to Greenberg for the second out. 2 down. 2 down. That brings up manager Frankie Frisch. Cardinal second baseman, a switch hitter batting left-handed against Hawker. 2 down, nobody on. The last half of the third. Hawker starts his wind up. Here's the pitch. Strike called. 1 strike on Frisch. Medwick on deck. Collins in the hole. This is the last half of the third inning. 1 strike is the count on Frankie Frisch. Hawker's getting his signal from Cochran. Starts the old wind up for the next pitch. Here it comes.
And it's a ground ball going down to Rogell, and it's just going to get the leg goes out to center field for a hit, and Frick is on first base. That one took a great big hop. Rogell lost it in the sun after it hopped, and it went right on out to center field for a hit. Frankie Frick on first base with 2 down, and that brings up Medwick, a Cardinals left fielder, a right-handed hitter. Joe Medwick up. This is Medwick's second appearance. Got a single out to left center in the second inning. Collins on deck, and Delancey in the hole. Two down, Frick on first base, Medwick batting. Hawker's on the mound getting set. Here's the first one to Medwick. Strike one called. Looks like a beauty. 1 strike is the count on Medwick. Medwick hitting .429 in the series up to in today's game, and he started out with 1 hit already today. Here's the next pitch, foul, back against the screen, strike 2. 2 strikes is the count on Medwick. 2 strikes on Medwick with 2 down. Hawker on the mound again, getting a signal from Cochran. He's all set for the next one. Frick on first base. Here it is. Inside and high, ball 1. 1 ball and 2 strikes is the count on Joe Medwick. We're in the last half of the third inning. Detroit leading at the present time by a score of 3-1. On the mound again, gets the signal from Cochran, all set. Here's the pitch, inside and low, ball 2. Cochran making a nice stop on that one. Greenberg being a wild pitch. 2-2 is the count. On the mound again, set for the next pitch. Here it comes. Outside on high. Ball 3. 3-2 is the count on Medwick. With 2 down. Frick will start with a windup on this one, or rather there won't be any windup. He'll start with a pitch. Hawker getting set. Frick strikes down. The pitch is wide. Ball 4. And Medwick walks. Medwick has been on both times. A single and a walk. That puts Frick on second. Medwick on first base. 2 down. And Rip Collins, Cardinal first baseman, is up. Batting left-handed against Hawker. This is Collins' second appearance. He got a double off of the right field screen in the second inning. Delancey on deck. Hawker's on the mound getting set. Here's the first pitch to Collins. And it's a drive out to center field for a hit. Here comes Frick coming in. And Medwick plays up at third. Collins got a line single out to center field, scoring Frankie Frick and sending Medwick to third. And that brings up Delancey, the Cardinal catcher. General Sauter is starting to warm up again for Detroit, down in the bullpen. 2 down. Medwick on third base, Collins on first base. And Delancey is up, and the score is now 3-2 in favor of the Tigers. And this is the last half of the third inning. Delancey batting, a left-handed hitter. The last half of the third. Hawker's on the mound getting set. Here's the pitch. Strike 1 called on Delancey. 1 strike is the count on Delancey. 2 down. Medwick on third base. Collins on first base. Hawker's on the mound again. Gets the signal from Cochran. Here's the next one. And it's a ground ball. Back to Hawker. Hawker fields it. And he's out at first. Hawker to Greenberg for the third out, retiring the side. The results, the last half of the third inning show 1 run, 2 hits, and no errors. And the score reads 3-2 going into the first half of the fourth inning.
And that's the end of the third inning of this World Series baseball game between the Cardinals and the Tigers, being played here at Sportsman's Park, St. Louis. This broadcast comes to you with the compliments of the Ford Motor Company and the Ford Dealers of America. And now to the ball game with France Locke. In the last half of the third inning there, Pepper Martin, the first man up, grounded out Owen to Greenberg. And then Rothrock was out Gehringer to Greenberg. And then Frick got a single. Medwick walked, and Collins singled to put over a run. Scoring their run after 2 men were out, just the same as Detroit scored their 3 after 2 were out in the first half of the third. The score here as we go into the first half of the fourth inning reads Detroit 3, St. Louis Cardinals 2, and Hawker
will be the first man up for the Tigers in the first half of the fourth inning. He'll be followed by White, the center fielder, and then manager Cochran. Delancey just made his throw down to second base, and we're all set to go. Walker is strolling out to the plate, getting a nice hand as he comes up to the plate. His second appearance, he was out on a long fly out to right center, which was taken care of by Orsatti in the third inning. As he bounces on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey for the first pitch to Walker, a right-handed hitter. Walker starts his wind-up. Here it is, inside and high, ball one. 1 ball is the count on Walker. Stands back on the mound again, getting a signal for the next one. Strike called, 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1 ball and 1 strike on Walker, first man for the Tigers, and the first half of the fourth. Here's the next pitch. Another one called. 2 strikes is the count on Eldon Walker. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count on Walker. First man for the Tigers in the first half of the fourth inning. Got the old wind up for the next one. Strike 3 called. Walker watched that one go by, and it was a called strike. Called out on strike for the first out. And that brings up JoJo White, the Tiger center fielder. This is White's third appearance at the plate. The first inning he was out on a fly to Orsatti in center. Struck out in the third. That's left-handed. Mickey Cochran on deck, and Charlie Gehringer in the hole. So in the first half of the fourth, the Tigers leading in this ball game by a score of 3-2, making all of their runs in the first half of the third. Cardinals getting one in the last half of the second and one in the third. Vance winds up. Here's the first pitch. Low. Ball one on White. 1 ball is the count on White, the left-handed hitter. 1 man down, nobody on. Vance goes back to the rosin bag again. He's coming in on the mound. 1 ball and no strikes is the count on White. Starts the old wind up for the pitch. Ball 2, another low one. 2 balls and no strikes. Two balls and no strikes is the count on White. First half of the fourth. Vance is winding up again. All 3 outside and high. 3-0 is the count. Vance tosses that ball in, gets a new one. 3-0. First half of the fourth inning with 1 man down. Cochran is scheduled to be the next hitter. Vance getting a signal, winding up for the next one. Here it comes, and it's strike 1 call. 3 balls and 1 strike is the count on JoJo White. 3-1. Got the old wind up for the next pitch. Got to be in there this time. Here it comes, and it's ball 4 high. And White got free transportation, result of the base on ball. That brings up Mickey Cochran, the Tiger manager and catcher, a left-handed hitter. Cochran's third appearance at the plate. The first inning was thrown out at first by Price. The third inning, he doubled down the first base line and started that 3-run rally of the Tigers. Cochran batting, a left-handed hitter with White on first base and 1 man down. Vance comes in on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey. On the rubber. Up goes the arms, getting set for the first pitch to Mickey Cochran. Here it is. He starts down. He swung at it. There goes the throw. And the ball goes on out to center field. And White is racing to third. Here comes the throw in for Orsatti. And he covers out for a moment. But the ball is kicked out of Martin's hand. White is safe at third base. That throw down to Freak at second by Delancey. As they hit it in the dirt, went right on out to center field. Orsatti then made the throw to Martin at third base. Martin dove in to tag. Up the ball got away from Martin, and White is safe at third.
Stolen base, and an error on Martin now on the throw at third. Martin took Orsatti's throw, and when he drove in to right, he was first called out, and then the ball rolled out of his hand, and he was called safe. It's an error for Pepper Martin, and a stolen base for Wright. They count as one strike on Mickey Cochran, who has batted. Mickey Cochran batting. One strike is the count. Not ready to go again. This is the first half of the fourth inning. One down, White on third base. Vance is on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey for the pitch to Cochran. That's his windup. And it's a wild pitch, hit the dirt, and White is in with a run. There's a wild pitch, hit the dirt, bounding away from Delancey, over to the side, and White is in with a run. Walked to get on there, came all the way around on a stolen base, an error, and a wild pitch. That makes the score read 4-1 in favor of the Tigers. Bill Walker is warming up for the Cardinals down in the bullpen, a left-hander. We call the score out 4-1 when it's 4-2. Beg your pardon. Detroit leading by a score of 4-2. Van starts his windup. Here's the next pitch to Cochran. Strike called. And the count is 2 strikes and 1 ball on Mickey Cochran. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count. 1 man down, nobody on. This is the first half of the fourth inning, and the Tigers are leading by a score of 4-2. Vance gets his signal again, winding up for the next pitch. Strike 3 call. Cochran called out on strike for the second out. 2 down, and that brings up Charlie Gehringer. Tiger second baseman, left-handed hitter. Got a single in the first inning, walked in the third. 2 down, nobody on. Starts the old wind-up for the pitch. Here it is, and it's a ground ball. Down to Spriggs. Spriggs comes up with it. Out at first, Spriggs to Collins for the third out. Retiring the side. The results there in the first half of the fourth inning show 1 run, no hit, and 1 error which was charged up to Pepper Martin. JoJo White, the first man up, walking. He stole second base, and when the throw went out to center field there, due to the mix-up at second, he went on to third. Martin got Orsatti's throw in time to get White at third, and was the first called out until the ball rolled out of Martin's hand. Martin was charged with an error on the plate. Cochran then struck out, and Gehringer rounded out Spriggs to Collins. So the score now as we go into the last half of the fourth inning reads Detroit Tigers 4, St. Louis Cardinals 2. Cardinals have 4 hits off of Hawker, and Detroit has 6 hits off of Carlton and Vance. The last half of the fourth, Ernie Orsatti, the Cardinal center fielder, will be the first man up, the left-handed hitter. He'll be followed by DeRosa and then Vance. More than likely to be a pinch hitter for Vance. Bill Walker is still warming up down in the bullpen for the Cardinals. Walker's winding up. Here's the first pitch to Orsatti. Strike 1 call. 1 strike is the count. He's a left-handed hitter. Was out on a fly ball out to Goslin on his other trip in the second inning. Walker winding up. Here's the next one. And it's a drive out to center field for a hit. And Orsatti is on first base. Orsatti sends a line single out to center field. And that brings up Leo DeRocher, Cardinal shortstop, a right-handed hitter. DeRocher's second appearance at the plate this afternoon. The other time he was out on a fly ball out to Fox in right field. DeRocher hasn't had any hits so far in the series. Walker's on the mound, getting set. Here's the first pitch to DeRocher high, ball 1. 1 ball is the count on DeRozier. Orsatti on first base. Nobody out. Here's the next one. And he swung at it. Strike one. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1-1 is the count on DeRozier, is batting a right-handed hitter. Walker's on the mound again, getting set for the next pitch. Here it is. And it's a ground ball. Down to Owen. Owen comes up with it. Throws to Gehringer. And he drops the ball as he started to throw. And both runners are safe. Both runners are safe. Gehringer dropped the ball as Orsatti came in. He was taking the throw from Owen, starting to turn and pivot for a double play, and one of those cases where you start throwing the ball before you've got it in your glove. They're arguing on the play down there, claiming that Gehringer held the ball long enough for the out. Orsatti on second base, DeRozier on first, and the air charged up to Gehringer. They're arguing down at second base now on the play. And the next hitter is scheduled to be Vance, but we'll probably have a pinch hitter coming in here. Bud Davis is the man for St. Louis that we know is picking out a war club to come in there and bat for Vance. Arguments all over. Players are all coming back to their respective positions. Nobody out. Orsatti on second base. DeRozier on first base. Gehringer charged with the air. And General Crowder is down there warming up for the Tigers again. The Tiger bullpen down the right field line while Bill Walker is warming up. Bud Davis coming in to bat for Vance, the right-hand hitter. The ball was tossed out to Walker. He takes his position on the mound. Each team has a man warming up in the bullpen. He's getting set for the delivery. Here it comes. On the drive out to right field for a hit over first base. Scoring Orsatti, sending DeRozier to third. Davis finger to right. Scoring Orsatti, sending DeRozier to third. Makes the score read 4-3. Still in the favor of the Tigers. DeRozier is on third base. Davis on first base. Nobody out. And Papa Martin is the next hitter. I don't know whether it looks like they might be figuring on sending a pinch runner in for Davis. Dizzy Dean going in to run for Spud Davis. Going in to run was Spud Davis. Dizzy Dean is on first base. DeRozier on third base. Nobody out as yet. And Papa Martin is the next hitter. Martin up to the plate. They're all set to go. Walker's on the mound getting set for the first pitch to Papa Martin, a right-handed hitter. Here it is. And it's a ground ball down to Gehringer. Gehringer tosses to Rogell. Rogell started to complete a double play to throw the ball, and he hit Dizzy Dean square in the head. And Dean is lying on the ground out there. Looks like he's knocked out from that one. He just tumbled clear over to the side of the bag. Martin is on first base. The ball was hit down to Gehringer, who tossed to Rogell, and is starting to throw to Greenberg for a double play. The ball hit Dizzy Dean in the head, bounced clear out to right field. Martin is on first base. DeRozier scores on the play, tying up the ball game. The Dean is forced out down at second. Gehringer to Rogell. Martin will be on first base, and Rock is the hitter. They're all gathered around Dizzy Dean out around second base. He's still down on the ground. Both teams gathered around there. There was a rather peculiar play there. With a fastball, a fast grounder down to Geringer. Geringer scoots it up, tossed over to Rogell. Rogell leaps the bag to make the throw to Greenberg. And the ball hits Dizzy right square in the head, and over he went. And he looks like he's still out down there. He's still on the ground. Trainers are out on the field working on him. Practically all of the members of both teams are down there, gathered around Dizzy down at second base. Down in the bullpen, each bullpen, however, the two pitchers warming up. Bill Walker, southpaw, warming up for St. Louis down the left field bullpen. And Crowder warming up down in the right field. They're carrying Dean off now. They're carrying him off, taking him out to the Cardinal dugout. And Rock will be the next hitter here when we get underway. Papa Martin is on first base. DeRocher scored on that play. That's 2 runs in. The ball game is tied up now, 4-4. This is the last half of the fourth. Martin on first, and Rock will be the hitter. This will be Rock's third appearance to play. In the first inning with Martin on first base, he hit into a double play. In the third inning, he grounded out Geringer to Greenberg. All set to go. Players are back in their respective positions, and Rock is the hitter. Rock up, 2 away. Rather 1 away. Martin on first base. There's only 1 out. After Martin on first base, Walker's on the mound, getting set for the first pitch to Rock. There goes the throw over to first base. Back on the mound now, set for the next one. Here's the pitch, and it's a drive, high fly going out to left field. Dawson is going back. He's under it, and he makes the catch for the second out. Martin was clear down to second base, but he gets back to first. 2 away. Martin still on first base, and that brings up Frankie Frisch, the Cardinal manager. Batting left-handed, this is Frisch's third appearance at the plate. He has 1 hit out of 2 steps, getting a single in the third. Walker's on the mound, set for the first pitch to Frisch. Batting left-handed, Martin on first base. Here it comes, and it's a hot grounder down to Geringer. Geringer scoops it up, steps on second base. A nice stop by Charlie Geringer. That forced Martin at second for the third out, repairing the side. The result, the last half of the fourth inning showed 2 runs, 1 hit, and 1 error. And the score is tied up now, 4-4, going into the first half of the fifth. This broadcast is sponsored by the makers of Ford and Lincoln cars and Ford trucks. Well, to correct those hits, there were 2 hits that inning. Art Davis getting hit. Brings the Cardinals total. Both teams now having a total of 6 hits. Going into the first half of the fifth inning, and Goose Goslin is scheduled to be the first man up. Bill Walker going in to do the twirling for the Cardinals, the left-hander. This is the third pitcher this afternoon for St. Louis. Started out with Carlton, then Vance, and now Walker. And Goslin will be the first man up. This is the first half of the fifth inning. The old ball game tied up 4-4. Goslin, Rogell, and Greenberg will be the first 3 hitters. Goslin was out on a fly ball, out to Rock in right field in the first inning, who walked in the third. That's left-handed. Bill Walker's on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey for the first pitch to the Goose.
First half of the fifth, score tied 4-4. On the mound, gets the signal, starting his windup. And here's the initial pitch inside, ball one. 1 ball is the count on Goslin. First man for the Tigers in the first half of the sixth inning. Rather, the first half of the fifth inning. 1 ball is the count. He's winding up for the next one. Here it is. And a foul back against the screen. That makes the count read 1-1. Another ball being tossed in. 1-1 is the count on Goslin. Score tied 4-4, first half of the fifth. Walker's back on the mound. Steps back off of the mound for a moment. Waiting on Delancey to get his mask back on. Now we're all set again. He's on the rubber. Getting a signal from Delancey. Starts the old wind-up. Count is 1-1. Here's the pitch. Inside. Ball two. And Goslin just dropped his bat and ducks on that one. 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 balls and 1 strike. This is the first hitter for the Tigers in the first half of the fifth inning. On the mound again, getting a signal. Goslin's hitting .357 so far in the series. Starts his windup. Here's the pitch, and it's a ground ball. Down to first, takes it on a big hop, and he's out at first. Breaks to Collins for the initial out. 1 away, and that brings up Rogell, the Tiger shortstop. Rogell has been at the plate twice. In the second inning, he struck out. In the third, he singles out to center field. Helped to drive in a couple runs there in that 3-run rally of the Tigers in the third. Rogell batting. He's batting right-handed against Walker. Here's the first one. Wide, ball one. Rogell is a switch hitter, and he's around him batting right-handed now due to the fact that Walker is a southpaw pitcher. 1 ball is the count. Walker starts his windup for the next one. Here it comes, and he swung at it. Strike one. 1-1. Even up. 1-1 is the count. 1 ball and 1 strike. Walker starts the old windup for the next pitch. And a fly ball going out to center field. Orsatti is after it, and he takes care of it for the second out. Rogell is out on a fly to Orsatti in center. 2 down, and that brings up Hank Greenberg, the Tiger first baseman, a right-handed hitter. Greenberg has been up at that plate twice this afternoon, the second and third inning, and he has 2 out of 2. Both singles. Right-handed hitter, 2 down. This is the first half of the fifth. Walker's on the mound getting his signal from Delancey. Starts his windup for the initial pitch. 2 away, nobody on. Here it is. And it's inside and low, ball 1. 1 ball is the count on Hank Greenberg. Owen on deck. First half of the fifth inning. Score is tied, 4-4. Walker's winding up for the next pitch. 1 ball is the count. Here it comes. Strike. Called curveball to cut the inside corner. Cut in there very nice. 1-1 is the count. Back on the mound, gets his signal from Delancey. 1 ball and 1 strike, 2 down, nobody on. Winding up, here's the pitch, and a ground ball down to Martin. Martin scoops it up, and he fumbles to come in, trying to throw, and Greenberg is on first base, and he might get a hit on that one. Going to give Martin an error on the ball. Greenberg is on first base. Greenberg is on first, and as for Pepper Martin, that makes 2 errors for Martin in the ball game this afternoon. Marvin Owen is up with 2 down. This is the first half of the fifth inning. That was one of those tough kind of that could be handled either way. Here's the first pitch to Owen. Strike 1 called. 1 strike is the count. Owen has been at the plate twice. Got an infield hit in the third inning. His only hit of the series so far. Balls back into Walker. He's on the mound again. Set. Here's the next pitch. And a ground ball going down to third. Martin takes it on a big hop. And he's out at first. He really threw that one across from third to first. He was out at first. Martin to Collins. Every third out retiring the side. The result in the end of the first half of the fifth inning shows no runs, no hits, and 1 out with the subs up to Pepper Martin.
And the score remains tied 4-4 going into the last half of the fifth inning. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
And this is the WBBM Air Theater, Wrigley Building, Chicago.
Back at Sportsman Park going into the last half of the fifth inning. Eddie Meyer just giving us the information. Word from the clubhouse reports that Busy Dean is okay after a doctor's examination. The last half of the fifth coming up, and Joe Medwick, Cardinal left fielder, is the first man up. Medwick is a right-handed hitter. Got a hit in the second inning, walked in the third. This is his third appearance at the plate. So he's 1,000 so far for the afternoon. After lining up, here's the pitch. A little bit higher, ball one. One ball is the count on Medwick. Collins on deck. Delancey will be the third man this inning. So still tied, 4-4. After lining up, here's the next one. And the fire down the third baseline. The count is even up. One ball and one strike. 1-1 on Medwick. We're in the last half of the fifth. Off the starts his line up again. Here's the next one. And a hit out to right field. A line single out to right. And Medwick is on first base. Medwick has 2 hits in a row for the afternoon. Still batting 1,000 for the day. And he was hitting 429 before this game started the series. Rip Collins up. Collins has had 2 hits out of 2 trips. A double in the second inning, a single in the third. Switch hitter batting left-handed. And again, General Fowler starts warming up down in the right field bullpen. Hawker's on the mound getting set. Here's the first pitch to Collins. Inside and high, ball one. Hobson is also going down to the bullpen. Left-hander. Crowder's already down there warming up. The score is tied 4-4. Medwick on first base. Nobody down. And the count is 1 ball and no strikes on Rip Collins. Hawker's on the mound. Gets his signal from Cochran. Here's the pitch. And it's a fly ball. Going out to center field, a high fly. Joe White is after it. He's under it. And he takes care of it for the initial out. Collins is out on a fly out to Joe White in center. So we have 1 down. Medwick on first base. And Delancey is up. Delancey is a left-handed hitter. He hasn't had any hits so far. He walked in the second inning. Was tossed out by Hawker in the third. There's a over to first base, but Medwick is back to the bag. 1 down. Medwick on first base. Delancey batting. Hawker's on the mound. He gets his signal. Here's the pitch. Wide. Ball 1 on Delancey. Cochran tosses the ball back out to Hawker. On the mound, getting a signal from Cochran. Ball the next one. 1 ball is the count. Here it is. Ball 2 outside and low. 2 balls and no strikes. 2 balls and no strikes is the count on Delancey. Medwick still on first base and 1 man down. Hawker's on the mound. Here's the next pitch. Strike 1 called. 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 balls and 1 strike is the count. Hawker's back on the mound again. Gets the throw hole on that mound. Gets his signal. Here it is. And the pitch is low. Ball 3. That makes the count read 3 balls and 1 strike on Delancey with 1 man down. And Joe Medwick on first base. Hawker takes his position on the mound. He's getting his signal. Here's the next one. He starts down. The pitch is low. Ball 4. Medwick started down, went down to second and slid in, but it was unnecessary as the pitch was low, and Delancey got free transportation. That puts Medwick on second, Delancey on first, 1 down, and Ernie Orsatti, the Cardinal center fielder, is up. Orsatti is a left-handed hitter. He has 1 hit out of 2 trips, getting a single in the 4th inning. Hawker's on the mound. Getting a signal from Mickey Cochran. We told you a moment ago, 2 pitchers, Hogstead and Crowder, warming up down in the bullpen. Here's the first one to Orsatti. High, ball 1. 1 ball is the count. Hawker's back on the mound again. Gets the signal from Mickey Cochran. For the next pitch, Orsatti steps back out of the batter's box for the bowler. Back in. 1 ball is the count. Here's the next one. And it's a line drive down to Greenberg. And he tried to get back for a double play. And he went over to first, but Medwick was still off. And he made a throw down to second to Rogell. And Medwick was doubled off of second. That was a peculiar play there. Orsatti hit a hard line drive to Greenberg at first base. Greenberg started back to first trying to get Delancey, but Delancey went into the... And he made a throw down to second to Rogell. And Medwick was doubled off of second. That was a peculiar play there. Orsatti hit a hard line drive to Greenberg at first base. Greenberg started back to first trying to get Delancey, but Delancey went into the bag head first and beat Greenberg, but Medwick had taken too big a lead off of second. And Greenberg turned and threw to Rogell at second base, forcing, doubling Medwick to retire the side. The result, the last half of the first show, no runs, 1 hit, and no error. And the score remains 4-4 going into the first half of the 6th inning.
The nationwide broadcasts of the World Series games are brought to you by the Ford Motor Company.
Going into the first half of the 6th, and Pete Fox, the Tiger right fielder, will be the first man up. Fox is a right-handed hitter. Been at the plate twice this afternoon. His first time he was out on a fly ball to DeRocher in short left, and his second appearance in the 3rd inning, he was struck out by Vance with the bases all occupied. St. Louis is now leading in hits, having 1 more than the Tigers, a total of 7 against the Tigers' 6. Fox, Walker, and White will be the first 3 hitters for the Tigers in the 6th inning. Score still tied 4-4. Bill Walker's on the mound, getting his signal from Delancey for the first pitch to White. First half of the 6th inning. Walker starts to wind up for the pitch. Here it comes, and it's a drive going out to left field. Medwick's going back, but it's over his head. Up against the stand, out at left center, and Fox pulls up at second base with a double. Fox double to left center. On second base, nobody out, and that brings up after the Tiger pitcher. And this is the first half of the 6th inning. The ball game being tied at the present time, 4-4. Umpire Reardon is looking the ball over. The Fox got out there against the fence. Announced it okay, and it's tossed back into Walker. After is up, he'll probably sacrifice here to advance Fox to third base in the scoring position. The infield is playing in close. Walker's on the mound. Here's the pitch. A little bit high. Ball 1. 1 ball is the count on Walker. First half of the 6th inning. Score tied up 4-4. Fox down on second base. Walker's on the mound again. Set. Here's the next one. And if he tries to bunt it, but it's a foul back of the plate. The count is 1 ball and 1 strike. 1-1 on Walker. That's right-handed. Pete Fox down on second base. Result of that double out to left center. And the score tied up 4-4. This is the 4th game of the World Series. Walker's on the mound again. Gets the signal from Delancey. Here's the pitch. And he bunts one. It's going back out. Delancey fields the ball. And he's out at first to sacrifice. Delancey to first, who covers the bag. Retiring Walker, but advancing Fox to third base. One away. One away. Fox on third base. And that brings up Joe Wright, the Tiger center fielder, a left-handed hitter. Cardinal infield is coming in close now in case White hits the ground ball where they can field it and try to cut Fox off at the plate. Walker's on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey for the first pitch to White. White's been on once in the 4th inning, walking. Starts the old wind-up. Here's the pitch. and it's a foul back of the plate. Strike one. White got on the fourth inning, was out of the base on balls, then stole second, went on the third on an error on the throw from the outfield, and scored on a wild pitch. One strike is the count on White. Fox on third base, Walker's on the mound again, getting a signal from Delancey. The infield is in close, he starts his wind-up. Here's the pitch, ball, and White. Rather Fox darted back to third base very fast that time when Delancey made out like he was going to cut it down there. The count is 1-1 on White, who is batting. 1 ball and 1 strike. Walker's back on the rubber again. That's the old line up for the next pitch. 1-1 is the count. Here it is. Strike two, high. White started to swing. He changed his mind, but it was a call strike just the same. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count on JoJo White. Fox on third base and 1 man down. We're in the first half of the 6th. Bill Walker's back on the mound. Count is 2 strikes and 1 ball on JoJo White, who is batting. Starts his wind-up. Here's the pitch. And it's a pop fly. Going down the third baseline. Pepper Martin is after it. Goes far. Makes the catch just outside of the line. For the second out. 2 down. 2 down, and that brings up manager Mickey Cochran, the Tiger catcher, and a left-handed hitter. He has 1 hit out of 3 trips this afternoon. That was a double in the 3rd inning. Started the Tigers' 3-run rally. 2 away. Pete Fox on third base. Mickey Cochran batting. Walker's on the mound. Getting a signal from Delancey. This is the first half of the 6th inning. Starts the old wind-up. And here's the initial pitch, and he swung at it. Strike 1. 1 strike on Mickey Cochran. 1 strike is the count on Mickey Cochran with 2 down. Fox on third base. Frankie Frisch coming in for a little conference with Walker. Going back now out to his position at second base. Walker coming back in on the mound. 1 strike is the count on Cochran. Fox is on third base. There's 2 down. Walker's on the mound. Starts the old line up for the next pitch. Here it is. And a foul back of the plate. And the count is 2 strikes on Cochran. 2 strikes is the count. Tossing out some new balls to umpire Redden. 1 is thrown out to Walker. And here we are, ready to go again. 2 strikes to no balls is the count on Mickey Cochran with 2 away. And Fox on third base. Walker goes back to the rosin bag. Coming in on the mound. Score still tied up. 4-4. The first half of the 6th. Getting a signal from Delancey. Starting his wind-up for the pitch. And here it is. Wide and low, and that one came very near getting away. 2 strikes from 1 ball. It was a curve ball, but it broke outside. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count on Cochran. Cochran struck out on his last appearance in the 4th inning. He got a double in third, was thrown out by Frisch in the 1st inning. Walker's on the mound again. The count is 2 strikes and 1 ball. Cochran steps back out of the batter's box. Coming back in, the coach is present time. Baker working third baseline for the Tigers. Perkins working on the first baseline. And when Cochran got back in the batter's box, Walker walked back off of the mound. They're taking turns about. And now it looks like they're both going to come back in. Yep, Walker's in on the mound. Cochran steps back into the batter's box. The count is 2 strikes and 1 ball. Walker gets the signal from Delancey. He's winding up for the pitch. Here it is. Low. Ball 2. 2 balls and 2 strikes. 2-2 is the count. 2-2. 2 down. Runner on third base. On the mound again. Starts the old wind-up for the next one. Here it comes. And it's a fly ball going out to right field. Rock is after it. And he takes care of it. on the third out, returning the side. Cochran is out on a fly to Rock in right field. The result showing no runs, one hit, and no error. Tigers having one man left on base. And now as we go into the last half of the sixth inning, the old ball game is still tied up 4-4. The first half of the sixth, Fox, the first man up, doubled. And then he was sacrificed to third by Hawker, after which White fouled out to Martin at third, and then Cochran went out on a fly ball out to Rock in right field. Going into the last half of the sixth inning, Leo DeRocher, the Cardinal shortstop, will be the first man up. DeRocher's been at the plate twice. He hasn't had any hits. In the second inning, he was out on a fly ball out to Fox in right field. On the fourth, he got on an error. An error by Gehringer when he hit a ball down to Rogell. He tossed over to Owen, who tossed to Gehringer at second base, and Gehringer dropped the ball. Cardinals have been charged up with two errors, both made by Martin. Detroit one, made by Gehringer. In hits, the two teams have 7 apiece. They're both tied up, so you can just figure it out that it's a nip and tuck battle all the way through. DeRocher batting, right-handed hitter. Walker on deck, and Martin will be the third man. Walker's on the mound, he's winding up. Here's the first one, strike one, called on DeRocher. One strike is the count on Leo DeRocher. Walker's on the mound again, gets his signal from Mickey Cochran, winding up. Here's the next one, high and wide, ball one, making the count read 1-1. Even up on DeRocher, 1 ball and 1 strike. First man for the Cardinals in the last half of the sixth inning. And here's the next one, foul back of the plate. The count is 2 strikes and 1 ball. Two strikes and 1 ball is the count on DeRocher's batting. A new ball was tossed out to Walker. He's on the mound, gets his signal from Cochran. He's winding up for the next one. Here's the pitch, and a ground ball down by Park, going out to left field for a hit, and DeRocher is on first base. That's the first hit of the series for DeRocher, a single between third and short, and he's on first base. And that brings up Bill Walker, Cardinal pitcher, and that also starts Crowder and hogs it to warming up again. Crowder has practically pitched the ball game down there in the bullpen this afternoon. Bill Walker is up. Walker bats right-handed. More than likely he will sacrifice here. There's a quick throw with a first base to Greenberg, but DeRocher is back to the bag. Calls back into Walker. He's on the mound getting set. DeRocher on first base. Another throw to first base. DeRocher is back. Balls back into Walker. This is the last half of the sixth inning. Score tied 4-4. He's on the mound. Here's the pitch. And he attempts to bunt one, but it's a foul back of the plate. One strike is the count. Walker's on the mound again, getting set for the next one. One strike to count. Here it comes, and he went after it, but missed it. Strike 2 on Walker, and a quick throw down to first base. Cochran to Greenberg, but DeRocher was back to the bag. The count is 2 strikes on Walker. That one was wide, but Walker went after it and tried to bunt. Two strikes is the count. Walker's on the mound again, getting set for the next pitch to Walker. Here it is. And again he attempts to bunt on one that was wide. Missed the ball completely. Strike 3. Walker being retired on strike. One down, and that brings up Pepper Martin, Cardinal third baseman, a right-handed hitter. Martin hasn't had any hits so far this afternoon. There's the first pitch to Martin, and it's a fly ball going down the right field line, going foul. No, it's inside of the diamond, but Gehringer makes a nice catch just inside of the line. Greenberg, Fox, and Gehringer going after it. Greenberg, or rather Gehringer, making the catch. That's 2 down. 2 down, and Rothrock, the St. Louis right fielder, is up. Batting left-handed against Autry. He's been at the plate 3 times this afternoon. He hasn't had any hits so far. This is 4th turn. He'll be followed by Frisch and then Medwick. DeRocher on first base, 2 away. The last half of the 6th inning, score tied 4-4. Walker's on the mound, getting set. Here's the pitch. Strike 1 called. Curveball up the inside corner. 1 strike on Rothrock. 1 strike to the count with 2 down. DeRocher's still on first base. There's another throw over to first. Too late. Ball's back into Walker. Comes back in on the mound. On the rubber, up goes his arm, getting set. Here's the pitch, and a hot one down to Gehringer. Gehringer juggles the ball, but he recovers, and he's out at first. Gehringer to Greenberg for the 3rd out, retiring the side. He juggled the ball momentarily, but he recovered in time to get him out at first base. The result, the last half of the 6th inning show no runs, 1 hit, and no error. And the score going into the first half of the 7th inning is still tied up 4-4. The Ford Motor Company hopes that the crowds that are listening in at the showrooms of Ford dealers throughout the United States and Canada, as well as everywhere else, are enjoying this ball game. We're going into the first half of the 7th. The old ball game still tied up 4-4. This is the stretch inning, and what Detroit fans are here at Sportsman's Park this afternoon are taking their stretch now. And the St. Louis fans will do likewise in the last half of the inning. Charlie Gehringer will be the first man up for the Tigers here in the first half of the 7th. He'll be followed by Goose Goslin and then Rogell. Gehringer has been up at the plate 3 times. He got a single out to left center in the first inning. In the 3rd inning, he walked. On in the 4th inning, he was thrown out at first base by Frankie Frisch. All set to go. First pitch is low. Ball 1 on Gehringer. Walker's on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey. 1 ball is the count on Charlie Gehringer, is batting, a left-handed hitter. Walker starts his wind-up for the pitch. Ball 2 inside and high. 2 balls and no strikes on Gehringer. First hitter for the Tigers, the first half of the 7th inning. And the score is tied 4-4. This ball game is just about even Steven all the way around. Walker's winding up for the next one. Here's the pitch. Strike calls. 2 balls and 1 strike. First half of the 7th inning. Walker's back on the mound again, getting a signal from Delancey. Starting his wind-up. Here's the pitch, and it's a hot one out to center field for a hit, and Gehringer is on first base. Gehringer singles to center, his 2nd hit of the afternoon. Gehringer on first base. Nobody down, and that brings up Goose Goslin, the Tiger left fielder, a left-handed hitter. Goose Goslin is up, left-handed hitter. Goslin was out on a fly out to Rothrock in the 1st inning. He walked in the 3rd, was thrown out by Frisch in the 5th. Gehringer on first base, nobody down. Walker's on the mound, getting set for the first pitch. Here it comes. 0-1, wide. Goslin started to bunt on that one, changed his mind. The pitch was wide. Jeff Hames warming up for the Cardinals down in the left field bullpen. 1 ball. Martin is playing in fast. Collins coming in fast with a pitch. Here it is. And he bunts one. Back to Martin. Martin fields the ball. And he's out at first. Martin to Collins, a sacrifice. Advancing Gehringer to 2nd. Martin faked like he was going to throw to 2nd base, but he didn't have a chance to get Gehringer. And then he makes a quick throw over to first base. One down. Gehringer on 2nd base. Rogell batting. Rogell batting right-handed against Bill Walker. Rogell has 1 hit out of 3 trips.
Gehringer on second. This is the first half of the seventh. Walker's on the mound. Getting set for the first pitch to Rogell. And he turns around to make a fake throw down to second, but there was no one in there covering. Just chasing Gehringer back to the bag. He's back on the mound again, set for the next pitch. Here it comes. Inside and low, ball one. 1 ball is the count on Rogell. With one down. One down. Gehringer down on second base. Walker's on the mound again, set for the next one. Here's the pitch, and he swung at it. Strike one. 1-1 on Rogell. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1 ball and 1 strike with 1 man down, and Charlie Gehringer down on second base. He got a single out to center field and then was sacrificed down to second by Gosling. We're in the first half of the seventh with the score tied up at the present time, 4-4. Bill Walker's back on the mound again. Takes position on the rubber, getting a signal from Delancey for the pitch. Here it is. And it's a ground ball going down to DeRocher. Big hop, and he throws to Martin. And he drops the ball at third, and Gehringer is safe. DeRocher played the ball to Mark at third. It was dropped. It's an error for Martin. That makes 3 of them this game for Pepper Martin. And we have runners on first and third with only 1 man down. 3 errors for Pepper Martin this game. That brings up Greenberg. They attack your first baseman, right-handed hitter. 1 down. Runners on first and third. Walker's on the mound getting set. Here's the pitch. Inside and low. Ball 1. 1 ball is the count on Greenberg. Gehringer on third base. Rogell on first base. Greenberg batting. Walker's on the mound. Here's the next one. Inside and low. Ball 2. 2 balls and no strikes is the count on Hank Greenberg. This is the first half of the 7th inning. Balls and no strikes. Walker's back on the mound again. Runners on first and third. He gets a signal from Delancey. Here's the pitch. Ball 3 inside. 3-0. 3 balls and no strikes on Greenberg. Three balls and no strikes on Greenberg. Walker's on the mound again. Here's the next one. Strike 1 call. Ted just slipped us an item here that says Martin ties on errors 3 for a single game in the series. And he has a total of 4 for the series. 3 balls and 1 strike is the count on Hank Greenberg who is batting. Walker's on the mound again. Sixth pitch, and it's a drive going out to deep center. Orsatti is after it. He lost it to Sun for the moment. And the ball gets away from him, clear out the center field fence. And 1 run is in, and Greenberg pulls up at second base. Gehringer scores. Rogell reaches third. Greenberg is on second. He lost that one in the sun. We could tell that was going on to a mile. He charged in for a moment, then went back. And he came very near making a beautiful catch out there after all. One run in. The score is now 5-4 in favor of Detroit. This is the first half of the 7th. One down. Rogell on third. Greenberg on second. That made the 3rd hit for Greenberg this afternoon. That double out there with Orsatti got 2 but couldn't hold. Runners on second and third. Walker's winding up. The infield's in close. Here's the pitch. Inside. Ball 1 on Owen. Owen's a right-handed hitter. Rogell on third. Greenberg on second. Detroit is now leading by a score of 5-4. This is the first half of the 7th inning. Walker's on the mound again.
Starts to wind up for the pitch. Here it is. Strike called. 1-1. One ball and one strike is the count. 1-1 on Owen. Walker starts his wind-up again. Here's the next pitch, and it's a foul. Into the stands, the upper tier to the right of the plate, and the count is now 2 strikes and 1 ball. First half of the 7th inning, Tigers now leading by a score of 5-4. They have runners on second and third, and only one man down. Cardinal infield playing in close. They hit the ground ball for a chance to cut off the runner at the plate. Walker's on the mound, starts his wind-up. Here's the pitch, and it's a drive going out to right field, and Rothrock makes the catch, and there's not a chance for anybody to come in on that one. He had a perfect throw coming into the plate, but Rogell was in a ways and had to get back. He didn't think that Rothrock was going to get to the ball in the first place. Owen lined out to Rothrock in right. So we have 2 down. Still have Rogell on third, Greenberg on second, and that brings up Pete Fox, the Tiger right fielder. He's a right-handed hitter. Walker will be the next man. There was a little conference at the pitcher's mound, and now the Cardinals are going back to their expected positions. Fox, the right-handed hitter, he has 1 hit out of 3 trips, getting a double in the 6th inning. More likely to be passed purposely. That's what's going to happen. The first pitch is wide. Fox will be purposely passed to get to Walker. Ball 1, ball 2 wide. Walker's on the mound. Here's the next one, another wide one. Delancey just stepping over to the right to make the catches. Be sure that Walker gets them wide. 3 balls. Here's the next one, ball 4. Fox purposely passed, filling the bases. And that brings up Hawker, the Tiger pitcher. With 2 down, the bases loaded, and the score is now 5-4 in favor of Detroit. Hawker bats right-handed. He has an average of 151 for the season as a hitter. Walker starts his wind-up. Here's the pitch. Strike 1, he swung at it. 1 strike on Hawker. 1 strike is the count. Bases loaded and 2 down. Walker's on the mound again. Starts to wind up for the next one. Here it is, inside and low. Ball 1, 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1 ball and 1 strike on Hawker. Bases all occupied. Walker starts his wind-up. Here's the pitch, and it's a ground ball. Going down to Frisch, and he is out at first. Frisch to Collins for the 3rd out, retiring the side. The result of the first half of the 7th inning show 1 run, 2 hits, and 1 error, which was charged up to Pepper Martin. And the score now going into the last half of the 7th inning reads 5-4 in favor of the Tigers. Frankie Frisch, the Cardinal manager and second baseman, will be the first man up. He'll be followed by Medwick, and Rip Collins will be the 3rd hitter. The hits now total 9 for Detroit, 8 for the Cardinals. Cardinals have made 3 errors, all charged up to Pepper Martin, while the Tigers have only made 1, and that was charged up to Charlie Gehringer, the second baseman. They're all set to go, the last half of the 7th inning. Frisch is the first man up. Hawker's on the mound, lining up. Here's the first pitch to Frisch, foul down the right field line into the stand. The announcer just going around calling out to the stands. That busy team is okay. Hawker's on the mound. Starts to line up for the next pitch to Frisch. And it's a drive going out to right field. Fox is after it, and he makes a nice running catch over to the foul line for the initial out. 1 away. One away, and that brings up Joe Medwick, the Cardinal left fielder, a right-handed hitter. The Tigers are leading in the ball game by a score of 5-4. Medwick has been up at the plate 3 times. He has 2 singles and a walk. Collins on deck. After he gets his signal, he's winding up. Here's the pitch. And it's a drive down the right field line. It's foul. Foul into the Tiger bullpen. And it's 1 strike on Medwick. They're tossing in a new ball. Ball bounded off to the stand clear out in the playing field. And Fox is after it. Throws it into Greenberg. 1 strike on Joe Medwick. 1 strike on Medwick. Hawkins on the mound, gets his signal from Cochran. Garcia line up for the next pitch. 1 strike is the count. Here it comes. High and wide, ball 1. Even up on Medwick, 1-1. With 1 man down, nobody on. And this is the last half of the 7th, with the Tigers leading by a score of 5-4. Hawkins starting out there on the mound again. Garcia line up for the next pitch to Medwick. Here it comes. And it's a hot one down first base. Greenberg made a beautiful one-handed stab on that ball. And ran over to first base, making the put out on the surface. He really robbed Medwick of a hit that time. It was a hard smash, hit the third, and Greenberg just slapped at it, and it was right in that glove. 2 down, and Collins is up. Here's the pitch. Strike 1 call on Collins. Collins has 2 hits out of 3 trips, getting a double in the second inning, a single in the third. Hawkins back on the mound again. Gets the signal from Cochran. Starts his wind-up. Here's the pitch. And it's a ground ball going down to Greenberg. Greenberg takes it on a big hop, running over, touching first base, making the put out unassisted for the third out, retiring the side. That was 2 straight put outs there for Greenberg at first base. The results, the last half of the 7th inning show, no runs, no hits, and no errors. And the score as we go into the first half of the 8th reads Detroit Tigers 5, St. Louis Cardinals 4. And here's good news for millions of radio listeners. Tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, the Ford Motor Company will inaugurate over the complete coast-to-coast Columbia network the Ford Sunday evening hour. This will be a full hour of glorious music. There will be a symphony orchestra under the direction of Victor Kolar, who conducted the Detroit Symphony Orchestra at Ford Gardens at the fair, and celebrated soloists from the operatic and concert stage. Also a mixed chorus of 24 voices. This Sunday evening, Madame Yuritsa, famous operatic star, will be the guest artist, and Mr. Edgell Ford will make a brief talk. And now back to this 4th World Series baseball game with Clarence Lawson.
First half of the 8th inning coming up. The Tigers at bat, and JoJo White, the Tigers center fielder, is the first man up, a left-handed hitter. Cochran on deck, and Gehringer in the hole. Walker's out there on the mound, getting a signal from Delancey for the first one to White. Tigers are leading by a score of 5-4. Walker's on the mound, starts the old wind-up. Here's the initial pitch, a little bit high, ball 1. 1 ball is the count on White. Martin came charging in fast, and after White didn't take a cut at the ball, why Delancey let loose of a nice throw down there to Martin, trying to caught him off his guard. Here's the next pitch, low, ball 2. 2 balls is count on White. First man for the Tigers, first half of the 8th inning. Walker's on the mound again, starts his wind-up. Here's the next one. Strike 1 called. 2 balls and 1 strike. Two balls and 1 strike is the count. Here's the next pitch. Low, ball 3. 3 balls and 1 strike is the count. Walker starts the old wind-up again. All 4 inside, and White walks. White is on first base. That's the second time he's walked this afternoon, and that brings up Mickey Cochran, the Tiger catcher. Walker's on the mound getting set. Cochran batting. And he bunts one back to Walker. And he throws to second base. The ball goes on out to center field.
and both runners are safe. Both runners are safe. Rice on second. Cochran on first. So now for Walker on the throw. Walker makes the throw down there to now. That's the fourth out for the Cardinals this afternoon. Belt. White on second base. Cochran on first base, and Gehringer will be the next hitter. Gehringer is up, left-handed hitter. Runners on first and second, nobody out as yet. Gehringer's had 2 hits out of 3 official trips to the plate, walked on another occasion. Here's the pitch. Strike one, calls. 1 strike is the count on Gehringer. Goslin is on deck. This is the first half of the 8th inning. Tigers leading by a score of 5-4. One strike. Walker's back on the mound again. Getting set for the next pitch. Here it comes. Wide. Ball 1. Count is even up. 1-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1 ball and 1 strike is the count on Gehringer. Walker on the mound again. Getting set for the next one. Turns and fakes the throw to second base. White back to the bag. 1-1 is the count. He's on the mound, getting set. Here's the pitch, and he bunts one. Collins feeling the ball, and he's out of third to sacrifice. Collins to first, who covered the bag, advancing White to third, and Cochran to second. Gehringer is out. Collins to Frisch, who covered the bag. It was a sacrifice for Gehringer. Puts White over on third. Cochran is on second base, and that brings up Goslin, the Tiger left fielder, a left-handed hitter. Rogell on deck. He'll be purposely past catcher's eye here for chance for double play. Here's the pitch, wide. Goslin is being purposely passed. Ball 1, and here's the next one, ball 2. Delancey just walking to the left of the plate, taking the throws. Ball 3. Another wide one. Ball 4, wide. Goslin is purposely passed, loading the bases. Well, we have Goslin on first, Cochran on second, White on third. 1 out, and Rogell is up. Bases loaded, only 1 man out, and not a hit so far in this inning. One of them walking, the other one getting on an air, and then Goslin being purposely passed. That brings up Rogell, right-handed hitter. Rogell has had 1 hit out of 4 trips. Walker starts his wind-up for the first pitch to Rogell inside. Ball 1. 1 ball is the count. One ball is the count on Rogell. Jeff Haynes is warming up again. Down in the bullpen for the Cardinals. Walker starts his wind-up for the pitch. On at the ground ball. Down to DeRosa. Goes on off the center field. And a hit. 2 runs are in. 2 runs are in. White and Cochran score. Goslin pulling up a third. It's a single for Rogell. And that brings up Greenberg. Score is now 7-4, favor the Tigers in the first half of the 8th inning. Only 1 man down, and Greenberg is up for right-handed hitter. Walker's on the mound getting set. Here's the pitch.
And it's a drive going out to right. Looks like it might be in the stand. And it's up against the wall of the trap. Here comes Dawson in. Here's Rogell in. And Greenberg goes up at third. It's a triple for Greenberg. And there's going to be some discussion on that ball out there. A fan reached over out there and came very near touching it. Whether they're going to argue it's a home run or what the rule is on it. Anyhow, Greenberg is on third base. And two more runs came in. Goslin and Rogell scoring. 4 runs in. 4 runs in. Score is now 9-4. Only one out. Greenberg on third, and that brings up Marvin Owen, the Tiger third baseman. Marvin Owen will be the next hitter. Wait a minute. Greenberg is going to be ordered back to second. I believe Greenberg is going to be put back on second due to the ground rule on that, covering that play there. One of the fans reached over, tried to catch the ball. Didn't have much luck, but I think there's a ground rule on the play, 2 bases. Which means that Greenberg would go back to second, and Rogell probably back to third. Greenberg is going back to second. Rogell back to third. So Greenberg will get a 2-base hit instead of a 3-base hit. And Rogell is on third base instead of back over there on the bench. That means only 3 runs in, changes that score to 8-4 instead of 9-4. Bill Rogell is going out. Jeff Haynes coming in to pitch for the Cardinals. Jeff Haynes coming in to pitch for St. Louis, right-hander. The 4th man on the firing line this afternoon, Alden, Vance, Walker, and now Haynes. The first half of the 8th inning, the Tigers leading by a score of 8-4. Runners on second and third, 1 down. We're all set to go. Marvin Owen is up, right-handed hitter. Jeff Haynes now pitching. Cardinal infield is in close in case the ball is hit through there in the dirt. They can scoop it up and have some chance to cut off the runner at the plate. Owen steps back out of the batter's box for the moment. Haynes is on the mound getting his signal. He's coming back in on the mound. Getting set. Gets his signal from Delancey. Starts his wind-up for the pitch. Here's the first one, and it's a drive going out to right field for a hit. Rothrock coming in after it. Here comes Rogell in. Rogell is in with a run. Greenberg stopping at third. Owen single to right on the first pitch, scoring Rogell, sending Greenberg to third. And the score is now 9-4 in favor of the Detroit Tigers in the first half of the 8th inning. Greenberg on third, Owen on first, only 1 man down, and that brings up Pete Fox, the Tiger right fielder, a right-handed hitter. Runners on first and third. First half the 8th. That's 3 hits for the Tigers this inning, brings their total up to 12 for the game. Haynes on the mound, here's the first one, inside and high, ball 1 on Fox. 1 ball is the count on Pete Fox. Haynes is back on the mound again. Gets his signal from Delancey. Runners on first and third. He's all set. Here's the pitch. Another high one. Ball 2. 2 balls and no strikes on Fox. Offer is scheduled to be the next man at the plate. And it's the first half of the 8th inning. Score is 9-4. Two balls and no strikes. Haynes on the mound. All set for the delivery. There's the pitch. Ball 3 inside and low. 3-0. 3 balls and no strikes on Fox.
3-0 is the count. Haynes is on the mound again, getting set for the next pitch. Here it comes, and it's strike one call. 3 balls and 1 strike. Only 1 man down. Greenberg over on third. Marvin Owen on first. That was Owen's second hit of the game, and incidentally his second of the series. Here's the next pitch, a foul into the stand down the right field line. And the count is now 3-2. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Another new one tossed out to Jess Hayes. 3-2 is the count. 1 away. Hayes coming in on the mound, getting his signal from Delancey for the next pitch. All set for the delivery. There's a throw over to first base, but Owen back to the bag. Collins tosses the ball back to Haynes. He's coming in on the mound again. Greenberg on third. Owen on first. 1 man down. Fox batting with the count 3-2. Haynes getting set. Here's the pitch. And he went down swinging. There's the throw down to second base. Here it comes back in straight to Delancey. And the ball is dropped. And Greenberg is safe. Greenberg is safe. Owen pulling clear up at third. Fox struck out. And then Delancey made the throw to Briggs. Briggs threw back to Delancey. But the throw got away from Delancey. And Greenberg scores. Owen pulling up at third. Another run. It's an error for Delancey. An error for Delancey. That makes a total of 5 for the Cardinals. Hawker is the next man up. Owen on third base. 2 down. And Hawker, the Tiger pitcher, is up. Right-handed hitter. That's 5 runs for the Tigers here in the first half of the 8th inning. Here's the pitch. Right 20 swung at it. It was credited as a double steal. Delancey drew an error on the play. 1 strike on Hawker. Haynes winding up. Here's the next one. Strike 2 is the call. 2 strikes on Hawker. Two strikes is the count. Haynes on the mound. Starts his wind up for the next one. Here's the pitch. Ball. It was low. 2 strikes and 1 ball is the count on Hawker. With Owen on third base. Score is now 10-4. Favor Detroit. This is the first half of the 8th. Jeff Haynes on the mound again. Getting a signal. That's the old wind-up for the pitch. Strike 3 called. Hawker called out on strike for the third out. This time was out. Hawker was the 9th man to bat during the inning. Every man on the Tiger lineup coming in there, and the last 2 outs were strikeouts. The result, the first half of the 8th inning show, 5 runs, 3 hits, and 2 errors. 1 charged up to Walker, and the other one to Delancey. And the score now as they go into the last half of the 8th inning, leads Detroit 10, St. Louis 4. So back out at Sportsman Park going into the last half of the 8th inning, and Delancey, the St. Louis catcher, will be the first man up, a left-handed hitter. He'll be followed by Arstati, and then DeRocher. Score is 10-4 in favor of Detroit. The last half of the 8th inning coming up. Tigers scoring 5 runs there in the first half of the 8th inning. Just about ready to go. Hawker's on the mound getting a signal from Mickey Cochran for the first pitch to Delancey, a left-handed hitter. And it's a drive down to Owen, a line drive. Owen snags it for the initial out. Delancey lines out to Owen at third. 1 away, and that brings up Ernie Arstati, the Cardinal center fielder, a left-handed hitter. DeRocher on deck. And it's the last half of the 8th. Hawker starts the old lineup again. Here's the pitch, and a ground ball going out to center field for a hit. And Orsatti is on first base. Orsatti singles to center. Orsatti singles to center, and that brings up DeRocher, the St. Louis shortstop, a right-handed hitter. DeRocher has had one hit out of 3 trips, getting a single in the 6th inning. On the mound, getting set for the first pitch to DeRocher. Here it is, and it's strike one called. 1 strike is the count. Mooney is warming up for the Cardinals down in the bullpen. Another left-hander. Hawkins on the mound again, set for the next pitch. Here it comes, and it's a fly ball. Going down back at first base. Greenberg is after it, and he drops it. And he drops it. He drops it, but just picks up the ball and tosses down to Rogell at second, which forces Orsatti. It saves Greenberg an error due to the fact that he picked up the ball and threw to Rogell at second, forcing Orsatti. Pat Crawford coming in to bat for Haynes. Crawford batting for Haynes. The left-handed hitter, 1 down. Here's the first pitch to Crawford inside, ball 1. This is the last half of the 8th. 2 down. Here's the next one. And it's a ground ball. Going down to Gehringer. Gehringer comes up with it. He's out at first. Gehringer to Greenberg. For the third out, retiring the side. The result, the last half of the 8th inning show, no runs, 1 hit, and no errors. And the score going into the first half of the 9th inning reads Detroit Tigers 10, St. Louis Cardinals 4.
The Ford Motor Company, which is sending you these World Series broadcasts, hopes that you are enjoying the game.
Going into the first half of the 9th inning, and JoJo White, the Tigers center fielder, will be the first man up. White has walked twice in the ball game this afternoon in the 4th inning, the 8th inning. Mooney going in to pitch for St. Louis, a left-hander. That's the 5th pitcher on the mound this afternoon for the Cardinals. Mooney is just coming in from the bullpen. The left-hander coming in on the mound with starting to warm up. White, Hopkins, and Gehringer will be the first 3 hitters for the Tigers here in the first half of the 9th inning. And the score is 10-4 in favor of Detroit. There goes Chapman throw, or rather Delancey throw down the first at second base, and we're all set to go. White is up, left-handed hitter. Mooney's on the mound, getting his signal from Delancey. Winding up, here's the pitch. Inside and high, ball 1. One ball is the count. Here's the next one. And it's a hit out to center field. He slapped the hot one back through the box. The ball going on out to center field. And it's a single for White. He's on first base. White got a single. That brings up Mickey Cochran, the Tiger manager and catcher, a left-handed hitter. Mickey Cochran up. White on first base. Nobody out. This is the first half of the 9th. Tigers are leading by a score of 10-4. Mooney's on the mound set. There's a throw over to first base, but White is back to the bag. On the mound again, getting another throw to first base. Allen tosses the ball back into Mooney. On the mound, getting set for the pitch. Here it comes, and he bunts one down to third base. Mooney fields the ball. He's out at the sacrifice. He's out. He was out down at first base. White overran second and had a quick throw down to DeRocher. And he dove for White, but White managed to get back to the bag. It was a sacrifice. White is on second base, one down, and that brings up Charlie Gehringer. Play was Mooney to Collins on the sacrifice. One away. Charlie Gehringer batting a left-handed hitter. White down on second base. Here's the first pitch. Low, ball one. One ball is the count on Gehringer. Mooney's back on the mound again, getting a signal from Delancey for the next one. Jojo White down on second base. He's up to step. Here's the pitch. Low, ball two. 2 balls and no strikes on Gehringer. Two balls and no strikes to count. White on second base, one man down. Mooney gets a signal again from Delancey. He's all set for the pitch. Strike, call. Fast one, right through the middle. 2 balls and 1 strike. Mooney's back on the mound again. Gets a signal. Here's the next pitch. And it's a fly ball. Going out to short center, right back of second base. DeRosa is at it, and he takes care of it about 5 feet beyond second base for the second out. 2 down. And that brings up Goslin, the Tiger left fielder, a left-handed hitter. Goose Goslin is up, left-handed hitter. 2 down, and White still on second base. Mooney's getting his signal. Here's the pitch. Low, ball one. 1 ball is the count. 1 ball is the count on Goslin. 2 down, and White down on second base. Mooney's back on the mound again, gets a signal from Delancey for the next pitch. 1 ball and no strikes. He's all set for the delivery. Here's the pitch. Strike 1 called. Count is even up, 1-1 on Goslin. With 2 down, White still on second base. Mooney's back on the mound again, getting a signal from Delancey for the next one. All set for the delivery. Here it comes, and it's a ground ball going down to Collins at first base. Collins scoops it up, runs over, touching the bag, making the put out, unassisted, for the third out, retiring the side. The results there in the first half of the 9th inning show no run, 1 hit, and no error. And the score now going into the last half of the 9th inning reads Detroit Tigers 10, St. Louis Cardinals 4. St. Louis has getting their last chance coming up in the last half of the 9th inning, leading 6 runs to tie it up. And this is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
And this is the WBBMS here at the Wrigley Building, Chicago.
Back at Sportsman Park, going into the last half of the 9th inning. And Pepper Martin will be the first hitter for the Cardinals in the last half of the 9th. He'll be followed by Rothrock, and then Frick. Tigers leading by a score of 10-4. Getting set to go, Martin steps into the batter's box. Hawker's on the mound, starts his windup for the first pitch to Martin. Here it is. Strike 1 called. 1 strike is the count on Martin. Right-handed hitter. Hawker's on the mound again, starts his windup. Here's the next pitch, and it's a ground ball going down to Rogell. Rogell scoops it up at short, and he's safe at first. And the throw goes on over through the wall, but Martin doesn't even try to run down. He'll get a hit on that one, I believe. It was a tough chance that Rogell went clear with his right to scoop up, and he didn't have much chance to get the man at first. However, we'll see just exactly the base hit. We were correct on that, and Martin gets credit for a hit. He's on first base, and that brings up Rothrock, the St. Louis right fielder, switch hitter, batting left-handed against Hawker. Martin on first base. Martin on first base, Rothrock batting. Hawker's on the mound. Getting set for the first pitch to Rothrock. Here it comes, and it's wide, ball one. One ball is the count on Rothrock. All set, here's the next one, wide and low, ball two. Hawks should have started warming up again down in the bullpen for Detroit. 2 balls and no strikes on Rothrock. With Pepper Martin on first base, this is the last half of the 9th inning. Hawks is on the mound again, getting a signal from Cochran. Here's the pitch. Strike one called. 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 balls and 1 strike is the count. Here's the next one, and it's a fly ball going out to center field. Deep center. White goes back and makes the catch for the initial out. Rothrock is out on a fly out to White and deep center. 1 down, and that brings up Frankie Frake, the Cardinal manager and second baseman, batting left-handed. Frake has 1 hit out of 4 trips so far for the afternoon. Pepper Martin still on first base, 1 away. The last half of the 9th, Detroit leading by a score of 10-4. Hawks is on the mound. Here's the pitch, and it's a hot one down to Rogell. Rogell scoops it up, runs over, touches second, throws to first, completing a double play and ending the game. The results of the last half of the 9th inning show no runs, 1 hit, and no errors. The totals on the game for the Tigers show 10 runs, 13 hits, and 1 error. For the Cardinals, 4 runs, 10 hits, and 5 errors. Charged up with 5 errors. That evens up the series at 2 games apiece, and they'll be out here tomorrow afternoon again fighting at 1:30. This is Francois speaking, and now we turn you over to Ted Hughes.
The broadcast of this game has been sent to you by the Ford Motor Company, builders of Ford and Lincoln cars and Ford trucks. You are cordially invited to be their guests again tomorrow when the World Series battle is resumed here at Sportsman's Park, St. Louis. And in the meantime, watch the Fords go by. And now we're going to turn the microphone, ladies and gentlemen, over to Pat Flanagan of station WBBM, who will give you a summary of the game and its highlights. There you are, Pat.
All right, Ted, how are you, ladies and gentlemen? Summary and the highlights today should be very short. Many, many things did happen, it is true. As we can say, the change in the batting orders on the part of Mickey Cochran, placing Greenberg down in a different spot from which he has been batting in so far, brought about the desired result. That, mixed up with Cardinals' ragged infielding, is what won the ball game. Much like the first game was won by the Cardinals up at Detroit. The infielding was ragged, very far from clean all the way through. It was just an ordinary ball game until the last half of the second. And Medwick got a single to center. Collins doubled to right field. Delancey walked to promote the bag. Then Arstotti's fly deep to Goslin. Medwick scored, making the score 1-0. DeRosa went out on a fly to right field. Carlson forced Delancey from shortstop over to second base. Then in the first half of the third, Walker came to bat, the pitcher, and he was out on Arstotti's very spectacular catch against the right center field wall. White struck out, and with 2 down, things started. Cochran doubled past first and put the tying run on base. Gehringer and Goslin walked, and the bags were loaded. Rogell singled and scored Cochran and Gehringer, making the score 2-1. Greenberg came up, and Vance came into pitch for the first time in a World Series. Greenberg singled off DeRocher's glove, scored Goslin. Owen was safe on Martin's high throw to Collins, and the bases were again loaded. That went for Owen's first hit of the series. Fox struck out with the bases loaded. And we have Martin coming up in the last half of the last half of the third inning. He came up and went out from third base over to first. Rothrock went out from second to first, and with 2 down, Frisch got a single out to left. Walk putting Frisch on second, and the tying runs were on the bases. Collins singled out to center, scored Frisch and Medwick, went over to third, and Delancey went out from pitcher to first base. In the 4th inning, scoring continued with Walker striking out to start the first half. White walked, stole second, went to third safely on an error by Martin, and came in and scored on a wild pitch. Cochran struck out, and Gehringer went out from second base over to first. In the second half of the 4th inning, Arstotti singled out to left center. DeRocher was safe on first and Arstotti on second when Gehringer made an error as he dropped Rogell's toss. Davis batted for Vance, and he singled out to right, scoring Arstotti and sending DeRocher over to third. The score then was 4-3. Dizzy Dean came in to run for Davis, and there was one of the plays coming right after that startled everybody in the place. Martin came up and hit to Gehringer, who forced Dean at second base. But as Dean was coming in, Rogell took the throw, tried to hit the ball over to first base, hit Dean in the head, and knocked him cold. The ball bounced to right. DeRocher came in and scored while that was going on. Martin went to first and was safe on what was called a fielder's choice, making the score a tie 4-4. Then Rothrock flied deep to Goslin. Frisch came up and forced Martin at second. Unassisted at second base. There were 2 runs of that inning to tie it up. Then in the last half of the fifth, we find Collins coming up and flying out to White. Delancey walked. Orsatti hit to Greenberg, who tried for Delancey, but they beat him back. And Greenberg's throw over to Rogell doubled Medwick off second base. And we had the 7th inning coming up. Gehringer in the first half singled out to center. Goslin sacrificed. Gehringer to second. It was a bunt that was handled by Martin, who got Goslin out of first base. Rogell was safe at first on a fielder's choice. Gehringer safe on Martin's error on a throw from DeRocher. Greenberg doubled, and then Orsatti lost the ball in the sun. Gehringer scored, and Rogell took third. Owen went out on a line drive to Rothrock. Fox was intentionally walked to get out Offers. The bags were loaded. Offers grounded out to Frisch, and the Tigers were ahead by a score of 5-4. Then in the 8th inning, scoring was rampant. In the first half of the 8th, White walked. Cochran bunted, and White was safe on a low throw to second for Walker's error. Cochran on first on the fielder's choice. Gehringer sacrificed, Collins to Frisch, advancing both runners. Goslin was intentionally walked for the second time this afternoon. The bases were loaded. When Rogell came up and singled, and then he brought in White and Cochran, the runners coming in, and the others going to first and third. The score was then 7-4. Greenberg doubled and scored Goslin, making the score 8-4. Rogell was on third. Haynes was pitching for the Cards at that time, and Owen came up while Haynes was pitching and singled, scoring Rogell. Greenberg going to third, making the score 9-4 for the Tigers. Fox struck out. Delancey threw to Frisch, who got Owen going to second. Frisch cut the play off and threw back to Delancey, who lost the ball at the plate. Greenberg scored, Owen going to third. There was a double steal and an error for Delancey on that play. The score was then 10-4 in favor of Detroit. And that's the way it eventually ended, ladies and gentlemen. Some of the highlights of the game have been given to you. For the Tigers, 10 runs, 12 hits, 1 error, and 12 left on the bases. The 13 hits, 1 error, and 12 left on the bases. For the Cardinals, 4 runs, 10 hits, 5 errors, and 8 left on the bases. So now we have it tied up. And Brady sent it back to Ted Fusing, who will tell you anything else I may have missed. Take it away, Ted.
It isn't much, Pat. Ladies and gentlemen, the play-by-play description today was given by Frank Loft of station KMOX St. Louis. The resume was given to you by Pat Flanagan of WBBM Chicago. And don't forget, weather permitting, the Ford Motor Company brings you another World Series game tomorrow at 2:15 Eastern Standard Time. Ted Husing saying, good afternoon all. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is the WBBM